So while we're on the topic of Nero, let's do some church history.
Number 2. The persecution under Nero. In the days of the apostles, the authorities of the Roman Empire were generally friendly, or at least neutral, towards the Jesus movement. Opposition and persecution came mainly from unbelieving Jews, and sometimes from ordinary pagan Gentiles, Acts chapter 19, verse 21 to 41. But not usually from government officials. The Apostle Paul certainly gives a very positive view of the Roman government in Romans chapter 13. However, this was not always to be the case. In AD 64, the Emperor Nero, AD 54 to 68, launched the first great official persecution of Christians by the Roman government.
Now, keep that date in mind. Keep those dates in mind. Nero begins his reign, AD 54. He initiates the first empire-wide persecution against the saints 10 years later, AD 64. But first, let's deal with AD 54. 2 years before that, Claudius was reigning as Caesar, and that's when Paul wrote to the Thessalonians. And you ain't got to believe me. I'm pretty sure any competent Bible commentary you have will have that information available to you. So Paul writes to them concerning this person he calls the man of sin and when he will be revealed. And he also talks about what's restraining him, what's holding him back or withholding him from being revealed. He says to them, let no one in any way deceive you, for it has not come. The it being the parousia, the Lord's coming. It has not come unless the apostasy comes first. He's not talking about a religious apostasy. He's talking about a political apostasy, and that's exactly what happens during or under Nero's reign. The zealots were causing uproars. They were causing revolts. That word revolt is apostasy, apostasia. They were doing that. That's why they were getting kicked out of Rome. That's why they were the Jews, that is, were getting kicked out of Rome. They were getting kicked out of all the my bad, can't remember off the top of my head specifically, but the places where we see them in Acts chapter 17 and 18 and 19, where they're being kicked out of cities, the Jews, that is, because of the uproars, the revolts that they're causing, those are apostasies. Anyways, he says that apostasy, that apostatizing must happen first, and then the man of lawlessness will be revealed, the son of destruction. Now, Paul already explained all this stuff to them while he was with them. He says, do you not remember that while I was still with you, I was telling you these things? And you know what restrains him now. Notice that he tells them, you know who's or what's restraining him now. Ask yourself, if Paul is prophesying way into the distant future, then why would he expect the audience, the readers, the Thessalonians, to know what he was talking about? That would not make any logical sense. Then he says, for the mystery of lawlessness is already at work. As in, it was already happening. This mystery of lawlessness was already happening. Only he who now restrains will do so until he is taken out of the way. This is where history gets involved. So Kenneth Gentry points out in a paper he wrote on 2 Thessalonians how the Latin word claudere can refer to restraining or withholding. I think the more modern definition for it would be like to close, like close a door or something like that. Anyways, he goes on to explain how Paul might just be using a play on words when he's speaking to them and saying, well, you know who's restraining him. Anyways, Claudius Caesar was married to Nero's mother, Agrippina. And no, Nero is not his son. He already had sons, but Agrippina, she was a vicious woman, and she was really on his head about making sure that her son would become the next Caesar. This is all documented. I'm not making this up. So the one who is restraining him would be Claudius, because later on he would be taken out of the way. Tacitus records in his book, The Annals, book 12, chapter 66 to 68, well, 67, but I think it's also some in 68. He writes about how Claudius was murdered by Agrippina. She fed him mushrooms. Apparently, Nero was already displaying some weirdo traits, you feel me? And so Claudius was like, nah, the throne is going to one of his sons. Obviously, Agrippina can't let that happen. Suetonius also documents this as well in his work, The Life of Claudius. Stop, screenshot, do whatever you got to do. Consider this part 1. I will see y'all on part 2. Don't worry, we about to get into it. This is just the tip of the iceberg.